we're live here in the capital city of Abuja. President-elect Donald Trump abruptly rejected a bipartisan plan to prevent a Christmas-time government shutdown, instead telling House Speaker Mike Johnson and Republicans to essentially renegotiate days before a deadline when federal funding runs out. Trump's sudden entrance into the debate and new demands sent Congress spiraling as lawmakers are trying to wrap up work and head home for the holidays. It leaves Johnson scrambling to engineer a new plan before Friday's deadline to keep government open. They wrote that the president-elect made an almost unrealistic proposal that combines some continuation of government funds along with a much more controversial provision to raise the nation's debt limit, something his own party routinely rejects.
It was already going to be a heavy lift for Republicans and Democrats to come together on a bill that would avoid a shutdown before midnight Friday, as well as provide disaster aid, $100 billion in disaster aid and $10 billion in economic relief for farmers. But that heavy lift got much more difficult on Wednesday when President-elect Donald Trump and his Vice President-elect J.D. Vance came out against the bill. President-elect Trump wants to inject negotiations in the debt ceiling. It's a very difficult issue. It allows the federal government to continue paying its bills for debts it's already incurred. The debt ceiling was suspended a couple of years ago under an agreement that then Speaker Kevin McCarthy brokered with the White House. The agreement was unpopular, but it took months of negotiations to craft, and it led to some spending restraints.
Wisconsin police did not plan any public updates Wednesday into the extremely rare religious school shooting that killed a teacher and a student and wounded 6 others, a day after the city's mayor chastised reporters and urged them to leave victims alone. Police have been tight-lipped about why a 15-year-old student at Abundant Life Christian School shot and killed a fellow student and teacher on Monday before shooting herself. 2 other students who were shot remained in critical condition on Wednesday. Madison's police chief released the name of the shooter, Natalie Samantha Rapnow, hours after the shooting on Monday, but police have yet to release the names of the 2 people she killed. A spokesperson for UW Health said she had no update on the 3 patients who were transferred to the hospital on Monday. A spokesperson for the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office declined to release any information about the number of autopsies it was performing or the identity of the victims. Well, and for more details, let's cross over to San Francisco to speak with spokesman for Republicans overseas, Errol Morkoc. Errol, glad to have you join us on Arise News. Well, a picture has come out showing Samantha, as she's known, practicing shooting, and of course, more information about the fact that the parents were divorced twice and remarried, and they are cooperating with the police. Tell us more.
Well, it's an awful situation, a dark day for America. My fiance is an educator, and everybody, whether you're directly involved or tangentially involved, is impacted by this. What we know now is there has been some breaking news, actually. She had been in contact online with a man from here in Modesto, California, somebody who authorities were able to just recently enact our red flag laws, which for your viewers, we have the Second Amendment. So you have the right to have a gun in this country, and it's inalienable. However, there is a special provision that if somebody has made extreme threats or is going to be a danger, perhaps, there's 48 hours where you can confiscate those guns. It looks like she had been in contact with this I don't want to say gentleman, this individual who had been making threats for bombings and whatnot. So right now, preliminary evidence coming out is showing that not that she had accomplices per se, but there had been some form of online communication, oftentimes with young girls and young men or young boys. It's a type of grooming, whether it be towards terroristic acts. That's a little bit of a new one, but certainly we see this repeat, especially attacks on schools, faith-based schools. You had the transgendered female shooter was the last time we had a very publicly known female shooter. And right now, obviously, I'm not speculating whatsoever on this young lady's condition. Also, everything is protected there because these are minors. So getting information out is going to be very difficult. But right now, I think it's important to focus on the links that she had outside. And you brought up the parents, and I think that's very important. The tide has shifted in the United States. There was a shooter, his name was Ethan Crumbley, a real scumbag. And what he did was he got his parents to give him a gun. And now those parents have been arrested. And Americans are saying, look, we have this right to have weapons, but you do not have a right to keep them out and about and to let a child access them without supervision
Right.
and all of these things. So I think that's where we're going as a country.
All right. The third shooting of the year 2024, the most in any single year in America. This is definitely a huge problem. My mother says it looks like wherever the kids go, wherever they are not okay, even the teachers.
Yes, and it speaks to the sort of failing mental health in our schools. Not only is there inadequate resources for mental health, but there's so a deluge of information that our young people are being subjected to. And well, it might be okay for the majority of people. It's obviously created a mental health crisis in the country. And one thing that's a tying factor with all of these events is not only the multiple cries for help that are ignored, whether it be by the parents or the school or the police, a combination of the community letting them down, but it also kind of speaks towards the drugs that these kids are being given for antidepressants. A lot of these children are being given SSRIs, and there's a lot of new information coming out about these types of antidepressants. And I'm not a doctor, I just play one on TV, but it's been reported and there is substantive evidence that these things are linked. So right now we have a cultural failing. When my mother graduated from high school in 1969,
Yeah,
there was
Errol.
a shooting club at the school. You would take your rifle to school and shoot in the shooting club. So the country has gone completely different in the last 60 years.
Yeah, the question of gun control, I mean, these issues keep cropping up, never seems to go away. Why is America not taking it, if you like, too seriously? Looks like the NRA has so much power over the Republicans and over the legislature.
The NRA has a lot of power over, in general, most candidates who come into Congress, whether they be Democrat or Republican. Why? Because they're a two-way organization, and on both sides of the ball, outside of California and New York, you can't really be against gun ownership. What we have to realize here is that perhaps the laws need to be changed, and in the terms of what is a child, okay? Because you can't buy alcohol till you're 21. So why can you buy a gun when you're 18? The reason why, cigarettes, they want to make it 19 is because high school kids get them. So there's a discussion to be made. How can we work with our laws? And then the bigger question is this should be an issue for national defense. We're able to spend, $500 billion to Ukraine for their security. We're able to go all around the world to create all sorts of positive and negative events, let's say, with our very vast military, but we're not able to protect our own children. And that's something that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are going to come out for and actually realize that these are soft targets. And because of the laws that we have on the books, we have to work inside of them. And I don't want to militarize our schools, but there needs to be actual substantive federal support for defense of these soft targets
All right.
until we can ameliorate this issue.
All right, you've actually raised the point I was going to raise, but because I have a short time, let me just drop this question before I let you go. Is this, Errol, becoming what you will call the new normal in America? How are even kids laying hands on guns? And then the question of parents' responsibility.
Yes, it's become the new normal, and it's been the new normal for a while. Actually, since I graduated in 2009 was back when I was in high school. And even then, there was sort of the undercurrent there. Right now, the new normal is perhaps holding the parents accountable. Once parents can feel that, hey, if my crazy child goes and does this, I'll be held accountable. I think that that's something that can come to it. But what we need is a national discourse and a national defense policy to stop this, because thoughts and prayers aren't going to help us. The NRA, as much as I respect them as a 2A organization, I'm a gun owner myself. They're not exactly they're an advocacy group, right? So they're advocating for the right. They're maybe not advocating for our children. So we need to look at things and make substantive changes. And the only person who can stand up to the internal conservative oligarchy that was there before is Donald Trump. He's the one person in the Republican Party who's come out and said, "Hey, let's take the guns away, then ask the questions." That's the most anti-conservative thing ever. He came out and said that during his last presidency. So you have somebody in there who's almost in many ways a faux gun conservative. He's willing to work with Congress, and he's willing to find a solution, probably with the national defense solution, because you're absolutely right. It's become commonplace, bog standard, and it cannot go on. It's a shame, and it's terrifying to all of us.
All right, Errol Morkoc, don't forget that Donald Trump is a Republican. All right, that'll be it. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you.